Welcome, everyone, to my 2025 overview. So, for any of you that have been watching my overviews of the past years or have taken my astrology class, you know that the big shift has really been from 2020 to 2025. And in all of those old videos, I would say to everybody, when we hit 2025, we are in a new world. 2025 and 2026 have some major things happening. I know, you're looking at me going, but there's been some major things that have happened in 24 and 23 and 22. Yes, what we have all experienced is a major transition from one energy to another. We're still in it, but this is something that is worldwide transformational. So, as you know, from 2020 on, we have had to think about things globally. We have had to start thinking about how we travel, how we interact, how we decide what we're going to do, how we manifest. So many things are changing. We have been through a lot. So let's look into 2025 and see what that transition is. Yes, I have a rainbow background because I wanted everybody to start thinking about dreaming, to start thinking about what's over the rainbow for me. You know, we all have Wicked out right now. We've got the Wizard of Oz, all those daydream kind of the real story behind the fantasy. That's what we're moving into. So, but I want you to think of it as like, a positive thing. So that's why I have my rainbow. So 2024 was a lot of closing out old stories. So karmic stories, old patterning, lots of things going in closure in that direction. As we move into 2025, we're going to have a lot of the outer planets shifting signs, which is transformational time on generational levels. So those of you that are my age, the Gen X, when somebody says the 80s, you have a certain kind of memory that comes up about that decade. The 90s, same thing. So as you get older, you start going into the decades, of course. Those of you that are younger, you are experiencing transformation constantly. So you're like, what's the next transformation? Of course, you're in a completely different category. So I want to talk about the beginning of 2025. As we move into 2025, we are in a Mars retrograde, which has been really uncomfortable. There's been a lot of like conflict, there's been a lot of push and pull energy with this Mars retrograde. It's really made us look at how we view the masculine energy in ourselves, in the world, and between us and those that we are in relationship with. So as we move into January, we are still in that Mars retrograde. But the North Node, which represents your spiritual destiny, what that means for you, you'd want to look in your natal chart. But what it means for all of us is that the North Node, what we focus on with our destiny, moves into Pisces this year, moves in January. So that means North Node about why we're here is in Pisces. The South Node, meaning what we're releasing, is in Virgo. So as we move into the year, we're moving into this place of like spirituality and trying to feel more compassion for the things that we've learned in the last few years. The negative side of that can be a little more of like that spiritual bypassing, like, oh, you just need to think one, two, three, and everything's going to be great. Like, we know that's not possible, but that kind of thing is going to start coming up. So you want to use your spiritual discernment as to what things are out there telling you how to manifest and how to be spiritual, how they fit you. So when we move into February, the end of February, Mars goes direct. So we've had this Mars retrograde that's been through Leo and Pisces, or Leo and Cancer, and it's now going direct. So everything that we have learned at the end of 2024 is going to help us catapult forward as we move into 2025 in that February, March time. So you might feel that you have a lot of excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of push, like you can really get yourself going at that time. So as you move into the new year, maybe it's always, it's always in the winter anyway. So I'm like, when we get into the new year, still be resting, still be thinking about maybe those spiritual themes in your life. And as we get into spring, end of February into March, you might have more energy with that Mars going direct. Also, Mars goes direct end of February. In March, Venus goes retrograde from March 1st to April 12th. And that is going to be another reassessing. We've been reassessing our Mars, our masculine energy. And then in the spring, in March, we're going to be reassessing our feminine energy, how we care for ourselves, how we nourish ourselves, how that interacts with the world and with people that we are in relationship with. In March, Neptune also moves into Aries. This is one of the big shifts of 2025. Neptune has been in Pisces for years. It is very comfortable there. It's been coasting. Now it's going to come up against that Aries energy of power and fire and let's go. And Neptune just wants to be like, hey guys, what's going on? Let's talk about spirituality. Some people have mentioned that this can be a kind of time of spiritual war. That can be, we've already got a bunch of wars going on that center around religion. So that's not really what I see, but I see it as Neptune moving into Aries. You're really going to be reassessing your spiritual knowledge, your spiritual path, and how you decide you're going to follow that just brings in a lot of like maybe some innovative thinking. So see it in that positive. There may be a challenge to that as well. Neptune in Aries, it's going to be there for years and years. It's not something that's just floating through. So it's a whole new way of seeing the world when Neptune moves into Aries. And that can be like an internal kind of warring with that spiritual self and that fiery self. We will see it in the world. It's going to be everywhere, but it's going to be in a different kind of more internal, like spiritual growth way that I want you to look at. So as we move into the spring, we're going to see April. We've got that Venus retrograde. We're kind of getting used to that Neptune in Aries. And then in May, Saturn goes from Pisces to Aries. So Saturn is all about structure, how we like to see things. It is not comfortable in Pisces because Pisces is not really full of structure. But as Saturn moves into Aries, it's going to meet up with Neptune. So we've got these major planets that are transitioning into new signs. So Aries, that is where you want to see where Aries is in your chart. And Aries is about kind of starting things that are new. So that's the thing that I'm thinking of for 2025 for all of us is there's going to be moments where we feel these little minor explosions within ourselves about newness, new thoughts, new ways of deciding what you believe. Saturn is about structure. So probably new ways of how you structure your life, how you structure your relationships. There's going to be a lot of like moments of newness. And then we're going to have to settle back into how does that fit with who I am and how I see myself and all that stuff. So that May time when Saturn goes into Aries is going to be another pow. So we have Neptune in Aries in March, Saturn in Aries in May, and then in June, we have Jupiter moving into Cancer. So Jupiter is about abundance and expansion. It's moving into Cancer, which is about nourishment, love, the mother. So I see with all these things happening March, May, it's going to be like pow, pow. Okay, this new stuff is coming in. How do I integrate it? June, Jupiter is going to help us really go internal and see how it helps us nourish ourselves, all these new things that are happening with us. Can also be, I think, Jupiter in Cancer can kind of aid that spiritual change that we're all going to be going through. And I could see there being like a lot more compassion at the around this time. June, we're talking about spring into summer, just people kind of being aware of the human struggle, the human existence that is current. Yes, we're aware of everything that's happened in the last few years, depending on who we are in our situation, but we're in a new place. So it's kind of getting to a new perspective of how we see the world and how we see others. In July, Uranus goes into Gemini. So Uranus is the planet of aha, explosion, things that are like, whoa, well, that was huge. Uranus going into Gemini is going to be around those themes of communication. So we're talking how we all communicate, socializing, online, in person, that sort of thing. We've been doing so much online, so many things online. I'm kind of seeing this as a time when people start gathering, but it's also going to be an innovative time. So that does include AI, um, social media, those sort of things as well. We've already had lots going on there, but I do think more innovative things are going to be coming up this summer. Then so we've had the pow, pow, pow. We've got all these changes that are happening generally in springtime into summer. And then that end of summer into fall and the rest of the year, we have some interesting aspects. So I've talked about what Neptune's doing and what Uranus is doing. Pluto has been the focus that we've had for the last few years because it changed from Capricorn into Aquarius right at the end of 2024. So that's the beginning of all these major sign changes. And then next end of summer into fall, there's going to be some nice aspects between these planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus. Then also into October, we're going to have Jupiter in a trine with Saturn and Neptune. So what we're doing is we're moving into the new world as at the end of 24 into 25. 25 is all about the outer planets and the major planets moving into a new sign. By the time we get to the end of the summer and into the fall of 2025, we are going to be full of all kinds of information and all kinds of change within ourselves in a way that is so different from the last few years, 2020 to 2024. We are really moving into 25 as seeing the changes that come and integrating it into our new personalities and our new way of thinking. So by the end of summer into fall and the end of 2025, we are actually going to be able to integrate all the changes that we have felt and gone through from the beginning to the middle of the year. So if you see 2025 as like moments, we've got the beginning, say the first third, the second third, and the last third. The first third is we're really kind of coming out of a fog and we're starting to see the new shifts. The second third is we're still experiencing those shifts, but they are starting to feel more concrete. We're really starting to see changes in the world, in our communities, and within ourselves. That last third is going to be about things coming together in a new way. And I do see it as a positive way or a way that feels very integrative. Where in the beginning we might be like, oh gosh, change, oh gosh, change, oh gosh, change. But at the end of the year, we're going to be like, oh, with this new way that I see the world and what things have been happening, I can now kind of ground myself in a new way. So I wanted to give you this short version this year of what's happening into 2025 because I have really found over the last few years, because every year has been something big since 2020, that it's really hard for people to remember what's going on. So again, this is the short version of this. If you want to look into this deeper for yourself, you can look at where the signs are in your chart. So the North Node moving into Pisces, where is Pisces in your chart? What house does that touch? Mars goes direct in February. Find Mars. Find where Mars is in the transit and where Mars is in your personal chart so that you can see those themes for yourself. Venus going retrograde, you want to find Venus. You want to see where that is retrograding in your chart and where it is when you were born. Neptune into Aries. We really, really want to look at Aries this year. Where is that in your chart? What house does it touch? What is your relationship and experience with Aries? Saturn in Aries as well. Jupiter in Cancer. We've had Mars going through Cancer right now, so Cancer might be a little, you might know where it is. It's a little lit up, but you want to see where that expansiveness is going to happen. And the house that Cancer is in your chart is going to tell you what the themes are for you, where that expansion is going to happen starting in June. Uranus in Gemini, you want to see where Gemini is in your chart. And then you want to really start thinking about how Gemini affects your chart, what house it's in, and then how Uranus moving into that area of your chart is going to be kind of new and more innovative. So if you want to do a personalized reading for your 2025, you would want to check out the year ahead in my appointment scheduling. that I will go through all of these aspects with you in your personal chart, which we can look at when you were born, where all those planets are, and how that affects the transit of this year. The other things that I suggest, I really like the app on your phone, Astro Future. That one shows you the actual chart if you're interested in that. I also really like the Pattern. That's another app that you can get into. Of course, Chani Nicholas, everybody knows her, that she has a great app. We have Astrology Zone with Susan Miller. I like that app as well. I like Astro Butterfly. I love getting the emails from Astro Butterfly. Michael Lennox, especially his eclipse and moon um, full moon and new moon assessments are really great. Highly recommend that. And speaking of that, I want to go into the Mercury retrogrades, which you're always going to ask about, and the eclipses. But that's my little like commercial in between. Those are the other people you should be looking at as well. Okay, so in 2025, Mercury retrogrades, everybody's like, always freaks out about those. I say take these dates and really use that time to relax and just not expect things to be pushing through and happening really fast. The first one is April 2nd to April 26th, and Mercury is going to be retrograding through Aries back into Pisces. So again, we've already looked at those themes with the bigger planets. Look at that with Mercury retrograde. July 17th to August 11th, Mercury retrograde will be going backwards in Leo. So you would want to see where Leo is in your chart, what house it relates to, and what theme that is for you this year. The last retrograde is November 9th to November 29th, and that's going to be from Sagittarius into Scorpio. So that's perfect for that time of year. I think we can save that end of the year reading for anybody that wants to read it on their own. I just think going from Sagittarius into Scorpio is going to feel very deep. I'll give you that heads up. The eclipses this year, the dates for those, we have March 14th, a total South Node lunar eclipse in Virgo. So as we've got Neptune leaving Pisces and we have Saturn leaving Pisces, then in March, in the middle of March, we're going to have an eclipse. And that eclipse is going to be the opposite side of Pisces in Virgo. And that's going to be about releasing the things that we are ready to release after the big shifts at the beginning of the year. March 29th, there's going to be a partial North Node solar eclipse in Aries. So again, read about Aries. Look at where Aries is in your chart. There's a lot of action there this year. And that's going to be moving in that North Node direction. September 7th, it's a total North Node lunar eclipse in Pisces. So again, we've got that Pisces-Aries axis. September 21st, partial solar South Node solar eclipse in Virgo. Virgo's the opposite of Pisces. So I really want you to think about the eclipses, where they're at, where they are in your chart. So again, Virgo, Aries, Pisces, and then again in Virgo. Where is that in your chart? What does that mean? Eclipses can be leaps forward. They can be restart energy. It can really be helpful. So throughout this year, you want to know how to best utilize that help. For me, Pisces is in a couple different houses. So when I look at where the eclipse is, I think, okay, I can really focus on that ninth house, which is about university level learning. It's also about travel. So where can I move forward in an eclipse sort of way in that part of my chart? It's going to be somewhere different for you, but that's why I want you guys to notice where things are in your chart. And again, if you need help with that, you can always schedule a year ahead astrology reading with me. So that is the overview of 2025. We've got major transitions, the outer planets moving into new signs. We have retrograde action, we have eclipse action, and we have to look forward to end of summer into fall and the winter. These outer planets that move really slowly have some positive aspects, which I really think are going to help us integrate the information we've all gotten personally, communally, and globally over the last few years. So this is a big year. We're leaving 2024 where we feel like we're really releasing some old stuff that feels icky. I think 2025, we're going to still be doing that work, but it's going to feel a little bit like we get a break every once in a while. That's my prediction. We'll see what's going to happen. All right. Thanks, you guys. Happy transition into 2025.